Hi, it's Kim Allen. Welcome to the reLEADING podcast. I'm really excited. First of all, it's my first episode of the second season. Yay! And also, this is actually a special edition of it because this is part of my Fabulous Women series, and we have a really special guest to kick this off. And the reason why I actually have this podcast, it's actually morphing into a few things right now because it's where you come to pause and pivot and then proceed with purpose. So whether you're an individual or whether you're an organization, there's no way that you can change anything unless we pause and find out, do we even need to pivot? And if we're going to pivot, how are we going to fortify ourselves, or how are we going to fortify the organization with any type of development for the people that work there in order to move forward with the purpose and do it differently? So anyway, I'm really happy that you're here today. So just remember that when we're talking about reLEADING, my umbrella, it's a big one, but it always comes under effectiveness. So effectiveness is actually it's a really, it's bigger than a golf umbrella, right? But at the end of the day, it does come down to leadership effectiveness, but it's people who lead. So it also has to do with our personal skill set. So that being said, my very special guest today, I want to introduce her. I want everyone to welcome Cynthia Karnai. Hi, Cynthia. How are you today?
Great to be here, Kim.
Oh, you're always great. She's always great. I just want to let everyone know that. I want to wish you a very happy Friday. It's always the best day of the week for me, right? And having you on here, it's even more special as part of my very special Women Who Empower Other People, especially other women. So we're going to delve into Cynthia's professional background in a minute because I like to set the stage for everyone. And then I have a couple fun questions for Cynthia. So is it okay if we do that before we begin?
Let's get started.
Let's do it. Okay. So just to give everyone an idea of Cynthia's background, she does have an undergrad, and she also has, is it an MBA?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You have an MBA. So you've been with the DSHA, which is the Delaware State Housing Authority, for many, many, many years in many different roles. And she has risen straight to the top, literally, in director roles, and also in as the chief operating officer. And now she is the executive director, which if you're not in the federal or the government agencies, that's really the equivalent of a CEO. So, and also too, Cynthia's background, she's going to probably talk about this today at some point, how her position was really more behind the scenes, especially with COO, if you will. And then she's leading the entire organization. So again, the escalation of her roles just straight up the ladder is really inspirational for all of us. And she's going to talk about some of the things that are important to her. But I've got the two questions. Well, I'm lying. I really have three. So I really have the two questions and then a really fun question. That one's for me. But for everyone, because we get to know Cynthia as a professional, but we want to know something about her that makes her just like us. So I have two questions, Cynthia, and you can answer them in any way that you want or in any order. And they go like this. The first one is, what is something that we need to know about Cynthia? And the second part of that is, what is something nice to know about Cynthia?
Love that. Okay. So, and maybe they're intertwined a little bit.
Okay.
So I am born and raised in Delaware, the first state, and I married my high school sweetheart. We are still married today. It'll be 37 years. And one of my hobbies when I'm not having the opportunity to talk to you, Kim, is I love to garden. We have a certified backyard habitat, and that includes actually a certified monarch butterfly garden. So I love to garden. I love to be outside, getting my hands dirty, and just enjoying the nature that comes with that.
Okay. So is that a need to know or a nice to know? It doesn't matter at this point. Just tell us about yourself.
They're both. I mean, I think it kind of shows you who I am. I think a little bit.
Really does. It really does.
And we'll probably dive into that. There's probably some crossover about how I lead. And again, I was the first person in my family to go to college. I graduated from the University of Delaware, as you mentioned, with a bachelor's degree in political science. And then I kept going I stayed with the University of Delaware to get my Master of the Arts at the time in Urban Affairs and Public Policy.
Okay.
And then I later went to Gordie Beacom College, which is a business school here in Delaware, to obtain my MBA, focusing in business and financial management. So that's
Wow.
been my education journey, and I'm very appreciative to have had that opportunity.
Wow. Okay. So when I talk with Cynthia, it's basically just give me the list of what you don't do, because that's actually easier. But Cynthia, I'm sorry, I have to ask you about something else that you've obtained.
Yes, yes.
I'm going to make her do it, everyone. It's so impressive.
Oh, you're so kind. So when I'm not gardening and getting to work at wonderful agencies, I did obtain my black belt many years ago. I still have it, my black belt in Kempo Karate. And it was just such a pleasure to go through that process and that journey with other fantastic students along the way.
That's amazing. I'm so impressed with that, because I can't even karate chop a straw. I mean, so and I know the discipline that it takes to obtain that. I do. And I think that's really admirable about you. But we're going to talk about other things that are admirable, but I do have my fun question, then we're going to get started. Okay. So Cynthia, all right, you're driving down the road alone in your car. No one's with you. Your favorite song in the whole world comes on the radio and you start singing your heart out. What song is that?
Oh, okay. First of all, everyone who knows me knows the singer, which is Celine Dion.
Okay.
She is an icon, and I've had the opportunity to see her 3 times.
Wow.
The last time I saw her was February 2020, and it was right before COVID. And unfortunately, since then, she's been battling a difficult disease, stiff person syndrome.
Yes.
So I'm very appreciative to have had that opportunity. And she's got so many albums to pick from, but my favorite is called To Love You More. And there's a fantastic violinist in the song. So if you have a chance to listen to Love You More, it's just perfect.
I'm actually going to listen to that because I think she has the voice of an angel.
I do too.
And I support her because, she has a great life. Her husband passed away. I believe she has children. And then like you said, she's got the healthcare issues, and I really like to support women. So I'm going to write her a letter and tell her how much I love her. Okay. All right. Well, that's great. Okay. So, all right. We know everything we need to know about Cynthia as far as her background. So, okay. So my first question for you, Cynthia, again, when we talk about leadership effectiveness, people talk about leadership. I talk about the effectiveness part, but I know that you and I have had that conversation. So Cynthia, when you think about leadership effectiveness, what's important to you as a leader?
Yeah, it's interesting. As you mentioned, I have worked through the ranks of an agency and loved every moment. And I'm so appreciative. You mentioned I am the CEO presently, but I have had the opportunity to walk with so many fantastic people on this journey. And I really value and thank them for helping develop me. And I think when we talk about effective leadership, one of my qualities that I bring to the table is problem solving. In any agency, you're going to face difficult challenges. You may even face a crisis, or you're going to face day-to-day tasks that need solutions. And I've really tried through, my career to focus on the solution. And of course, there's the great adage, if you're not focused on the solution, you're focused on the problem. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Right. So try to focus on the solution and help my team do that as well. We're going to face issues. Probably one of the biggest ones we faced during our careers has been COVID, and addressing how can we be there for our customers, our constituents, our stakeholders, our staff, and how do we address those issues and make sure that we are focusing on the solutions and making sure we can adapt to meet the needs of the agency or of the corporation.
Right. And I agree with you. I do know you as a problem solver. And something else that I know about you that I want to share with everyone was I didn't meet you. We talked on the phone a few times, and I came to meet you one time. I was in the lobby of basically the C-suite, and there were partitions, so I couldn't see everything. I could just see the people that were sitting at the desks right there. And I felt this spirit, I felt this energy, and I didn't know what was going on. All of a sudden, I heard your voice, and I knew it was you because I'd heard your voice on the phone, and I recognized it. And all of a sudden, I just remember it sounded like a herd of cattle. It was like all these people came out of their office, like surrounding you, and you're just this beacon of light there that it just draws people to you with your style. And for me, it just really gave texture to the word, really how you show up and the impact that you have. And that for me was showing that your style, you're a problem solver, you have a lot of amazing skills as part of your skill set. And also part of that is being that I call it the Pied Piper. Okay. So that I wanted to bring that up because again, I think your style has a lot to do with probably the why you've been so successful with problem solving, because of how you're presenting those solutions to other people. Being able to have a solution is one thing, being able to present it and get buy-in is another thing too. And I just think that is really a gift that you have as part of your repertoire.
Thank you so much. And, and again, I've devoted my career to public service. So, and I think I bring that to my leadership as that servant leader,
Yes.
servant leadership style,
Yes.
where you get to know your staff, you get to know your customers. And I know when I do my 360 evaluations with my team members and those that are close to me, they often point to my empathy. And sometimes it surprises me, like that I'm leading, that others notice that in me, that I'm leading with empathy, because it's, authentic, it's sincere.
Right.
But I'm glad to hear that they see it, those around me see it and feel it. Because I think that helps me be a better leader, getting to know my team, getting to know my staff, knowing that I care about them, not just how they're performing, which is important. We are running businesses and needing to meet business needs and oftentimes public needs if you're in the government sector. But, often I just want my team to know that I care about them as well. And it's funny, Dr. Kim, I have this about 10 years ago now, when I was promoted to COO, my boss at the time asked me, said, why do you think that you got the job? And I thought that was a great question. And I said, you know what? I know my stuff. I'm an expert in the field. I'm thinking these are the right answers, right? I'm an expert in the field. I know my stuff. I'm a problem solver. I pointed to all these great things that I thought was resonating at the interview. And he said, Cynthia, those are important, but that's not why you got the job. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Why did I get the job then? And he said, it's because of your integrity. It's because of these other things that you bring to the table. So integrity, this empathy, this servant leadership style matters. And to me, if my career is defined by that, by investing in others, whether it's personally or for their growth in their development, I would be honored to leave, my career behind one day and say, that's how I'll be remembered.
Oh, and it's so interesting when you talk about legacy. Actually, in my book, reLEAD, my 50-second quote is all about legacy, because I know that when politicians are ending their positions, they always talk about that. Like, our current president is transitioning over to retirement. So legacy is a big thing, and everyone wants to have a really great legacy. And I actually wrote those things down because the empathy and the integrity of servant leadership. And I just want to pause for a second, because that's so powerful. That it's so powerful to be to be a servant leader, if you will, and to have integrity and to be empathetic. Because if you don't have that, then you really can't be a servant leader. You can say you're a servant leader, got a great title, but it doesn't mean anything. And a few weeks ago, I actually posted something. I thought of one recently, and I actually made it a post and said, great leaders have a soul.
Mm.
And I've actually met with, over my career, many leaders in very high places. And I can't say that they all have a soul, because to me, when they have a soul, it's what you just talked about, Cynthia, being empathetic, right? And having integrity. Because when you have that, then you've got the skill set, but you have other people in really the palm of your hands as you move forward.
Yeah, and it's so funny, because I often align this to customer service too. Good leadership, good customer service. Sometimes it's hard to define, like, what exactly are those qualities?
Yeah.
But you know when it's bad leadership, and you know when it's
Yes.
bad customer service. That's easy to define. So it's getting that leadership qualities and being able to deliver them. And it's funny. I mentioned earlier, I love to garden, and I often talk about this when I'm able to give presentations. I talk about gardening because I think it is analogous to leading, in that you're planting seeds. If anybody is a gardener, you're planting seeds. You have a vision of what this is going to look like when it grows. You're cultivating it. You're caring for it. You're adapting. Because there's going to be things coming your way that you have no control over.
Right.
Maybe it's the weather if you're gardening. Maybe it's, a crisis if you're in a business, or the market shifts, if you're in a business. You have to be adaptable. But I find that it's so analogous to gardening, because at the end of the day, if you can plant a garden, you can attract or if you can plant the business seeds that you're looking for, you can attract those customers, attract the staff, retain your staff, but attract those qualities that you're looking for to continue to grow. So I just find it, and I mentioned earlier about the gardening. So I did think, again, that every time I'm out there gardening and getting my hands dirty a little bit, which I love, but at the end of the day, leaders do that too. Leaders do all of those gardening qualities. And when you're successful at the end, hopefully you get to share that, continue to grow it, and have others move on and be able to plant their seeds as well.
That's something that you've said frequently. And one great analogy you gave me one time. I'm not a gardener. I have long nails. I do wear gloves, but my husband does that. Yes, and I could do gardening, right? I mean, it's just, I want to go in the sun and I got to preserve this, right? But I remember something that you said a while ago, and it really resonated with me you said to me one day, how do you catch butterflies? Now, I'm not a nature girl, so I have no idea. But do you remember what you said to me?
I do. What? It's hard to catch a butterfly. It's hard to chase a butterfly. They don't want to be caught. Right. And it's, again, I have a certified monarch butterfly garden. So I read a lot about butterflies and protecting them, because, unfortunately their population has seen significant declines on the East Coast and the West Coast. But if you can plant a garden and attract those butterflies, they'll come. And that is a lot easier than chasing whatever it is you're after. So whatever it is you're after, maybe it's a butterfly, maybe it's a career path, maybe it's your education. There's lots of different things. Maybe it's, generating some profit with your business. But chasing it's going to be harder than planting that garden and attracting those qualities, those variables that you need to attract to actually grow your garden or grow your business.
Right. And also, didn't you tell me that you plant butterfly bushes so that the butterflies will come?
Yes. So it's a butterfly plant. It's
plant. Okay.
Yes. It's a so butterfly bush is usually a large bush with beautiful flowers. But the butterfly plant is often called a milkweed, which is a terrible name for such a beautiful and important plant. It is the only plant that monarch caterpillars eat, period. So they need this. They need this throughout, from Canada to Mexico. They need to have access to milkweed so they can make that journey. So it's pretty remarkable. But this one plant in your garden will not only attract the butterflies, but it enables the caterpillars, which is so important for the next generation to grow. So that's the beauty. And again, so analogous to business and to leading is to making sure that those resources are there for your team so that they grow.
Yes. And I love that. And, you know, you're such a huge proponent. I always say it's passing the baton. Yeah. And when I think about leadership effectiveness, I always think about your philosophy and also your intentional actions. That investing in or being so cognizant of the leadership effectiveness of others. It's not all about you. It's because I know you, you don't like attention drawn to yourself. And I'm sure this podcast is really hard for you, but the world has to know who you are, Cynthia. So at the end of the day, again, I just see that you are your message. I mean, this is a mission for you because you've gotten from here to there, doing all the things that you talk about. And yet there are people coming up through the ranks who don't have those opportunities. And I know that you try to make those opportunities happen for other people so that they can become more like you, more like the fabulous women that are in my series like you, and like great leaders that have souls. Yeah. That's your mission, I think. I really do. I've seen you in action.
Honestly, I think it's the best part of my position and my job. And I hope I've said this to many of my team. You know, I have a title, which is fantastic. It does give me opportunity to make changes and invest. And so we have made a commitment to invest in our managers. They are they're going to be sitting in my seat one day.
Yes.
And I hope they are. Yes. And you know, it's investing in our staff. I've found that it makes me a better manager. It makes me a better leader to have not only energized, valued staff around me. They feel their confidence growing. They feel their competencies growing, whether it's technical skills or soft skills, but just investing in them and making sure that they know I want them to stay with us. I want them to grow with us.
Yes.
And it's so funny you mentioned the baton handoff. Because when I'm not gardening and I'm not talking about leadership, I love to run. And I'm a slow runner, but I run. And I like to run half marathons. But once upon a time, I ran track. And when you're in a relay race and you're being passed the baton or you're handing the baton to someone else, you do it with real intention. It's not a soft pass. And you see this in videos sometimes where somebody drops the baton. Well, that's an immediate disqualification. So you do it with intention. And I love that metaphor too about running, because I like I said, I get to run half marathons and I'm so thankful to be able to do that. But running and leading takes consistency. It takes persistence. It takes resilience. And I think, again, those are great qualities for a lot of young women have the opportunity to play sports when they're younger. And we see those women rising through the ranks and into leadership. I mean, there's definitely a correlation with those sports and moving into leadership. Right. When I started in finance, which my specialty was mortgage and bond financing for housing in particular, I was one of the few women sitting at the table. Okay. So now I look around the table, it's diverse. It's diverse. You have women of all ages, but you have young women in particular coming through the ranks. You have people of color coming through the ranks, and seeing the opportunity in this finance field, which perhaps it's because they studied one of the STEM topics and are able to move into this field. But there's great opportunity. There's a great women's network and other networks where you can learn about this financing and be part of this process. And that's pretty cool. But it really is that investment in that, in your team, in that middle manager. I'm reading a great book now on middle management, and investing in that team and their value in the agency. And you know
Yes.
this, Dr. Kim, because every time I talk, again, because of my position, I have the opportunity to talk at great events, groundbreakings, homeownership events, events at the federal and state and local levels. And I always make a point when I'm at the podium to say, you know what, I have the title and I get to stand at the microphone, but look around this room, because those are the members of our team that actually get the work done. They're the ones that are making the agency run. I got the title, I have the microphone, but they're the ones that are making the magic happen.
Right, exactly. And what you try to do is give them the skill set so that eventually they can have floor. Mm-hmm. And that's really that's it in a nutshell, right? It's the game, but not a lot of leaders. They may believe in that, but they don't do anything about it. And also just another benefit of what you've done, and part of your philosophy is when you think about investing in, especially the middle management and also even the first time leaders, if you will, supervisors, in effect, what you're doing is that you're strengthening the organization. And by doing that, you affect the culture in a positive way. And that's really an amazing thing. Instead of people just coming back from a training session or, they're being, leadership development, they're coming back and they're changing the culture along the way. And that's a pretty beautiful thing to watch.
It really is. And thankfully, I've had the opportunity to witness that firsthand. We have managers that come back from, maybe it's a local conference, but most recently a national conference. And again, they come back energized and sharing ideas, best practices from across the country on how we can do things differently, do things better, more effectively, more efficiently. And it's exciting to see.
Yeah. So, all right. So as we wind down here a little bit, I do have, before my final question, I like to tap into your expertise, Cynthia, and ask you, because we are right now on the cusp of some of the biggest changes across every industry ever, with AI coming, and I'm not an AI expert, I will tell you that right now. But my question is, based on all the big changes that we've never really had anything that big other than COVID, what would, if anyone were to interview you and say, what would be something that organizations should consider for the future of leadership skills? Because I know you're talking about the problem side. I mean, you've done all that. Is there even one of them that organizations or people should focus on, or is there something that's really untapped that no one's really looking at right now that actually is going to wind up being so important?
I love that question about change. It is inevitable. And
it is.
From my career path, we've witnessed everything from an economic crisis to a pandemic, and that ripple effect of what that meant to us. Working differently has been part of that solution. I actually lean on a great book. It's an easy read, and it's called ADKAR. It's an acronym, ADKAR. And it really talks about, when you're going through change, how to manage that. And one of the big takeaways that I get, whether I'm addressing an issue or just want to improve a process, one of the big takeaways that I have is ask your team. Get their input. They know the answer. They know how this is going to impact them, probably their customers, what the ripple effect would mean for any changes. And because I've always said I would never make a change from my seat without talking to those that are in the seats that are going to actually have to be the ones that implement the change. I just don't think that's a strategy that has worked well historically, and it's not one that I like to use. I understand there are times when a leader has to make the decision. A decision needs to be made based on the information we have. But when we have the opportunity to get the input, the buy-in, the valuable feedback from the team, I find that answer is typically the star. That is the star in the room, and it's going to be successful.
I believe in what you said so much, So to the degree that I wrote a whole book about that. So my second book, Reengage, is actually based on what you're talking about, because I always think that's the missing link. And, you know, my final question, which I'm just going to tell you what my question is, because I think you answered it. Knowing what you know about being a leader who was effective, what advice would you give to others? Would you give that same advice, or would there be anything in addition?
I would say lead authentically, you know, be
Mm,
yourself. You know, I think that many of us, we understand there's business needs. There are.
yes,
But when we can be authentic and be ourselves, I think we meet our staff where we are and where they are.
yes.
And with that, I think we can be successful.
I agree. And I really like what you just said, because we always hear people say, I'll meet you where you are. But I think you just flipped that, because you just said, I'll meet you also where I am. And I love that, because it shows that none of us are perfect. Right. I love that. Oh, what a great way to end. Cynthia, you remain, not you are, you remain the delight that I've always known you to be. I want to thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and what's important to you. We've learned a lot about you, some really fun things, that you like Celine Dion. I'm going to listen to that song. And I also love the gardening, and also about to plant the milkweed. I will not commit to being a gardener. I can't. I'm sorry. I love you, but I can't do that. But
I will plant some plants. I will plant
okay.
some to
See,
you.
see. Um, Also, again, I like what you said about some of the way that our skills cross over, and you having a black belt in karate, no doubt that has crossed over because of the discipline of what that took to where you are right now. And I just think that your story of being with the agency for so long and just rising to the very top position, especially as a female, is just awesome. And I think you are as well. So with that, I'm just going to say to everyone that when I close the reLEADING podcast, I say to all, please be anything, whatever you want to be in life, whatever you want to be in your career. But my ask is just be effective. So until next episode, we'll see you then. Uh,